morning. Welcome to Citizen Extra. I am Ann Kiguta. We are taking you across the country where news will be breaking, will be live for you. And of course, on the back of the decision by NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga to drop out of the race, our eyes are peeled across the country from reactions from you. We're also going to be waiting to hear from IEBC, possibly in the course of the day, on their remedial steps in that regard. We're live for you also in Parliament this morning, where we're standing by as the Committee of the Whole House is expected to sit today, deliberating again on those Jubilee-sponsored electoral amendments that appear, right and ready to sail through to being passed and assented into law. We're also going to be taking you to different locations in the country. As I mentioned, we're live for you in Nyeri. Martin Munene is standing by. Will be telling us what area residents have to say about the possibility of not having this repeat presidential election on October 26th. We're also live for you in Eldoret, Mombasa and Kisumu, where our correspondents are standing by. And also at the law courts, we're watching for you this morning at the at the Supreme Court, where it will be hearing the petition that Wafula Chebukati, the IEBC chair, brought to it in terms of interpretation of his powers. We'll be seeing what they have to say, as well as a decision on Ekuru Aukot, the Third Way Alliance presidential candidate's case, where he seeks to have his name included in the repeat poll, one whose eventuality now is in doubt. And here in studio, joining me for analysis this hour, Advocate of the High Court and Mathari legislator Anthony Alwach, also joined by Advocate and Laikipia West Member of Parliament Patrick Mariro. And good morning to you both, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
What are your thoughts in terms of the NASA decision yesterday, boycotting this election? Let me start with the unlikely side. For Jubilee, how are you greeting this?
Well, we see this as a culmination of what various steps that NASA has undertaken for the last few weeks after the Supreme Court ruling at some point, and that annulled the presidential elections. We could tell from the Jubilee side that actually what we saw yesterday was a culmination of many weeks of preparation by the NASA leadership to exit, and not only to exit and be admitted in government through another route, and I'm sure we'll be discussing into detail about that. So we see this not as a surprise. In fact, if you see the party leader of Jubilee, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and William Ruto, the Deputy President, and even ourselves in our rallies, we have been very clear that this is what NASA leadership really was adding up to.
All along. All right, and let me just inform you, we're on standby to take you live to the courts, where Justice Mativo, we understand, will shortly be delivering his judgment in the Ekuru Aukot case, so we'll be getting to that live. But as we go into it, let me ask you this, Anthony, how will the decision of Judge Mativo affect this electoral environment now that it's still unclear whether we're going to have this repeat poll on October 26th?
Thank you. I think the electoral landscape has radically shifted, in my view, to the extent that whatever it is that he says today will have to be taken against the background that the situation has already changed. Legally, as of yesterday, the situation was that there were two candidates. Those two candidates were gazetted by the IEBC, and in making that gazette, the IEBC referred to a Supreme Court decision. There are two interesting things that I want to see how he navigates. One is a question as to whether he has the jurisdiction or the powers to overturn an interpretation that has been rendered by the Supreme Court itself. Secondly, is if he does, whether the IEBC will be able to use that to kind of turn back the clock and say, notwithstanding the withdrawal yesterday, the circumstances still remain such that it can be Uhuru and Aukot. Number three is that if Aukot is allowed, does that mean everybody else is allowed, or is it Ekuru Aukot? Because then he will have to navigate the question, is this a repeat, and a repeat between who? and who? Those are very interesting questions to answer, but in my view, there has been a withdrawal. And if you look at paragraph 289 and 290 of the Supreme Court judgment of 2013, it states that when one candidate in a presidential election has withdrawn, there will be a repeat.
Right, and let's just show you a picture now, even as we wait to get audio on the same. I believe we have pictures for you, both of the Supreme Court, where we're expecting it to sit on the Chebukati matter, and now Justice Mativo, of course, making this decision on the Ekuru Aukot case. Let's listen in to Justice Mativo now.
Three, all of which are within this court's mandate and at Quran 60 and Aukot. And that in the course of the submissions. I directed the parties